Hi everyone, it's Rob from the PodMania Podcast. Just before we start this week's Week in Wrestling, we need to talk about what's going on in the world right now. Something that is bigger than wrestling. Right now, people are discriminated against, abused for, and even murdered all down to the colour of their skin. This cannot continue. Events this week and the senseless murder of George Floyd have thrown into even sharper relief that things need to change. But what makes this worse is that this is not an isolated incident. As people with a following, no matter how little, we need to say this. We will never understand what you have been through, the awful hardships and discriminations you face on a daily basis. But we hear you and we stand with you. Racism cannot and will not ever win. We will fight it together. Black lives matter. For more information or for links to donations and ways to help, please see the links in the description of this podcast. Thank you and enjoy the episode. This podcast is a part of the PodMania Podcasting Network. Check out podmania.co.uk to check out more of our great podcasts, features, reviews, match ratings and previews spanning the crazy and diverse world of professional wrestling.
Hello, my name is Simon Miller from What Culture Wrestling, and you are listening to the PodMania Pro Wrestling Podcast, and you better keep listening to it. Why? Here's why.
You're listening to the PodMania Pro Wrestling Podcast, a sample of the best pro wrestling podcasts we can produce on our tiny budget. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, CastBox, and all other podcast platforms. If it's wrestling you want, check out more of our great content at podmania.co.uk. Let's do this.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the PodMania Podcast. This week in wrestling, I'm your host, Rob Goodin, and I'm joined by Chris O'Brien. How are you, Chris?
Rob Goodwin, as you sit there, hopefully as uncomfortable as you possibly could be. I have some things I want to say to you. Hi Rob, how are you?
Going full CM Punk pipe bomb, are we?
Well, to be fair, I remember how annoyed you were, 2 days ago, when CM Punk was about to win the PodMania Cup.
Yeah, CM Punk, Adam Cole, the inaugural P1 winner.
Yeah, the inaugural P1 winner, and therefore the inaugural PodMania champion. This is something that I'm not doing for any sort of site, I'm just doing it for fun. And then telling these guys, because I need to tell someone, otherwise people think I'm dead. And yeah, going up against stiff competition, he managed to beat Karrion Kross, who went undefeated in the group stage, his only blemish on his record being a draw against Arisa.
Is that a sign of how well he's going to do against Ciampa at NXT Takeover?
Ooh, he actually went against Ciampa at some point in the tournament, I think. No, he didn't. No, he was going to him and Ciampa lost to Punk.
There you go then. There you go. So, all in all, Chris, obviously we don't have Garth today. We'll both take it in turns to give our opinions as to why he's not here. What is your opinion as to why he's not here?
I think he got his balls stuck when he got up from the bathroom.
And he's just still there.
Yeah, he's just there, crying, and wasn't even his balls. It was just a bit of skin between, but that's still painful. And he's like, "Oh my god, that was so close to my balls," and he's just cupping them for dear life.
Hang on, are we talking the bit of skin between each bollock, or are we talking about the gooch between balls and arsehole?
No, the skin, the bit of ball sack between the bollocks.
Okay, yet incredibly painful.
Yeah, incredibly painful, incredibly close to something bad, and he's there thinking, well, if I'd have lost him, I would never have any more children, and I'd love that. But also, no, my babies. And there he is referring to his bollocks.
Of course. I mean, my reason as to why he was not here is far more elaborate than yours. I was going to go off on an entire spiel about how he lost a casket match to Yokozuna, and then therefore was off podcast for months and months and months, only to come back at SummerSlam to face himself in the main event.
I'm not being... That's a bit derivative.
That is still one of the weirdest pay-per-views we've ever reviewed for this podcast.
It's the weirdest, but not the worst, because you know what the worst is? The big event.
I mean, worst is very subjective, Chris.
Name one good thing on the big event.
Paul Orndorff.
He wasn't good.
No, nothing was good about that show. It really was the drizzling shit.
At least Hiro Hokuto was on Collision in Korea. Another Rob Goodwin suggestion, might I add.
Hey, who suggested In Your House Canadian Stampede for our retro review?
And that was fucking amazing.
Exactly, that was me.
No, I suggested that.
I'm sure you didn't.
No, you suggested let's do it in your house, and I immediately said Canadian Stampede. I am willing to go through the fucking chat for this.
Because that is the content that people tune in for. Us silently scrolling through WhatsApp till we find.
As you introduce our first segment, I am scrolling to, the middle of last month to see.
Chris, it was you. I know it was you. Don't worry. You don't actually need to go through WhatsApp. I know it was you, buddy.
Well, I wasn't going to go through it. I was just going to search Stampede.
Whilst Chris searches for this and inevitably finds that he's right, because he was right, this entire thing was done to instigate a riot.
You've admitted I'm right. That's all I need.
Okay, so let's kick into some news items. First, Chris, and I know you have a lot to say about this, we've got two bits of backstage heat, and this is to put it mildly. So let's start with Nia Jax. I know you have a lot to say about Nia Jax, so don't worry.
Most girls can work.
I will give you time to rant. Unfortunately, on this week's episode of Raw, which was taped, Nia Jax was involved in an incident again, where Kairi Sane ended up hitting the ring steps head first, causing a absolute stonker of a gash in her forehead. She posted pictures of it on Twitter. Of course, the actual the blood and everything was edited out of the show this week. This obviously is on the back of Nia's failed buckle bomb on Kairi Sane, the same person, and on the top of a number of high-profile botches.
Ember Moon, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Bayley, Sasha Banks.
Technically, Charlotte twice.
Charlotte twice in the same match.
Now, before you go off, because I know you've felt this for a while, and that's fine. I don't mind that. I will grant you that the buckle bomb spot, that's solely on Nia. I think that was dangerous. I think it was awful.
Kairi shouting, "I'm not set."
It was very lax. It was very lazy, and it looked horrendous. And thankfully, was nowhere near as bad as it could have been, because that could have literally ended Kairi's career. Luckily, it didn't. This one, I do still think that it's a little bit lazy. However, I am willing to say, if you look at it, it is not 100% Nia Jax's fault. That spot, hang on. That spot is performed on a weekly basis, and Nia actually does nothing wrong. Now, unfortunately, these things do happen. It looked ugly, and obviously with Nia's track record, which unfortunately is deserved, I can't back her on that. She has been exposed in quite a few matches. I don't think this was solely her fault. I'm not blaming Kairi. Obviously, accidents do just happen, especially in wrestling, but I do think that with her track record and the heat she's gotten from previous injury, especially that buckle bomb one, I think Nia, everyone just piled on straight away, and it does look nasty. Chris, you are very, very vocal. Let's put it mildly. You are very vocal about Nia's work rate. So what was your opinion on this? And
work rate. Look,
yeah,
I can take boring as fuck giants, right? Because when Nia Jax isn't hurting someone, that's what she is. She's a boring, big obstacle. She's like a big show. She's like Fale. She's in that mold, which is fine. Except Fale doesn't injure people. Big Show doesn't injure people. Like, I'm not being funny. Nia Jax can't be trusted to throw a punch. as we've seen with Becky Lynch. She should be trusted to be able to catch someone on a moonsault. She apparently can't do that. And yet we trust her to do a buckle bomb, which should never have happened. I agree on this one. It's probably both people's equal amount of fault here. Like, Nia didn't make sure Sane was safe, but she did have enough time to turn herself around. Was she trying to make it look too stiff? I don't know. This one is actually up for debate. Every single other fucking time, no, Nia is bad at her job. And like, I'm not being funny. Her job isn't to be a good wrestler. Her job is to be a safe wrestler, and she's not even that. And I would think I'd think it would be unsuitable to hire her in an indie fed, let alone the biggest wrestling federation in the world. And I'm sick of every time someone brings it up, people are like, well, were you angry at Seth Rollins? At the time when Seth Rollins injured like 3 different people in a year, yes, I was very mad at Seth Rollins and thought he should adjust his moveset. You know what he did? He adjusted his moveset. And when was the last time Rollins injured someone? Was it Balor in 2016?
Yeah, because he injured Balor, he injured Cena, he injured Sting, didn't he?
Sting. So he injured them in the space of a year, which is bad. Very bad. All of them sort of came out and said, well, it was halfway my fault. Like, Balor especially was like, no, I took that wrong. And like, sure, but like at the same time, on those moves, like Cena didn't get his hands up in time, so that one can be more iffy. But like in the buckle bomb, that's an inherently dangerous move. Like, he has, from powerbomb position, you don't really have much leeway to position your opponent. A chokeslam, on the other hand, which is what Nia did, you have so much room to navigate your opponent. You are literally holding on to them.
It's difficult. I do see people's point, because for ages and ages and ages, it was the done thing to rag on Seth Rollins because he injured so many people. I agree with you, Chris, because there was huge heat on Seth. Absolutely. Yeah, yes, we did. Can you not remember the fact that he basically injured Sting to the point that he had to retire? Does no one remember that?
People do remember that, but people seem to think we didn't. And the reason we don't rag on Seth now is because he stopped injuring people.
Exactly.
People were ragging on Seth then. Nia has yet to stop injuring people. What happened with Seth, basically? He went away for a few months, came back and stopped injuring people. Nia went away for a few months, came back, and immediately went back to injuring people.
Yeah, and of course we're missing Alexa Bliss, who she injured last year. Was it last year? It was the year before at Backlash. I think it was the year before.
It's at the point where Nia Jax has injured so many people that when Nia Jax injures someone, it isn't a tragedy, it's a fucking statistic. I mean, just fire her already. She's beyond... If you're not going to send her to developmental, fire her.
See, this is where I disagree with you. I don't think she should be fired. And, after the slew of releases, I don't think we should be calling for people to be fired.
Right.
However, I 100% agree with you that she should be sent to developmental. If she cannot do her moveset without putting someone in danger, more danger than, you are in taking a wrestling move anyway, then she needs to be sent to developmental, and she needs to refine her moveset so she's not putting those people in danger. And secondly, you look at those injuries that she's caused, 2 in the space of 4 weeks. Should she be the one who's in the fucking title match at Backlash?
Absolutely fucking not. It's unbelievable to me that she has a somewhat disdained push. And it's literally because of luck and because of family heritage. Like, family heritage, there's no one better, sure. But in terms of, like, having that monster heel in the women's division, there's so many options. Hire Jordan Grace. You have Piper Niven on staff. Bring her up. Jazzy Gabbett, you had her on staff until recently. You could have brought her up. She's more than a convincing monster heel. Even what's her name down in NXT with Dakota Kai? She doesn't hurt people. She looks a bit rough, but so does Nia. And Nia looks rough and injures people. So like, I'd rather take someone who looks rough and doesn't injure people.
Yeah. I mean, there is space for that monster on the main roster, and I do think Nia Jax, because she cuts an imposing figure. Her power game is brilliant. Her leg drop, okay, I know that we both dislike the leg drop as a finisher. However, when Nia does it, it looks legitimately devastating. It's like when Yokozuna did it. It was legitimately devastating.
I would not have a problem with Nia Jax if A, she stops injuring people, and B, she'd stop acting like a fucking child when people are like, hey, maybe stop injuring people. Have you seen her on Twitter every time something like this happens?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not defending the actions. Those actions need to change. We can't keep affording to injure wrestlers. Something needs to change there. However, for everyone that is calling her out on Twitter, whatever you're saying to her, she A, already knows, and B, she's going to have had that 1,000 times over from every smarky wrestling fan who thinks that they are, Bret fucking Hart in the ring. Yes, she knows she's injured people. Okay, it's up to the WWE, her bosses, to establish what to do next. Do we just ignore the fact that she's injuring wrestlers, which apparently they are doing? Or exactly.
Actually, that's my thing. People seem to be like, well, why would WWE keep her on? It's like, can we stop pretending that WWE is an ethical company?
Or do we sort of... I've forgotten what I was saying now because she put me off. What did I say? What was I saying? Fuck's sake. Either way, you shouldn't be calling out Nia Jax on Twitter because ultimately she is a professional wrestler. Yes, she's injuring people, and yes, that's bad, but it's not up to you to, start abusing her. It's not you personally, Chris.
I know, but I don't get me wrong. People who are abusing her on Twitter, that's not what I'm behind. I'm behind her getting better, which she isn't. Let me put it this way. I just finished an honours degree. If you were averaging less than a C on that honours degree by the Christmas break, you were chucked off of it. And that's just from learning. And you can speak for yourself. If you're a shit teacher, you'll probably be fired. If you're shit at most jobs, unless it's apparently an NYPD officer, you'll be fired.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. I agree with you. She has got to get better in the ring.
And it's been like this for what, 3 or 4 years now?
Since she debuted on the main roster, to be perfectly honest. I don't really remember her injuring anyone in NXT. She wasn't in NXT for very long.
Well, A, she wasn't in there for very long, and B, they didn't sort of demand her to do mad shit. You look back at her, her 2 biggest matches would have been Bayley and Asuka. Neither of those matches were especially... She didn't do anything that could injure someone, apart from throwing punches, which we have seen she can't be trusted to do. But still, it was with Asuka and Bayley who saw the punches coming. Let me put it this way: they probably meticulously put out every single aspect of that match.
Well, probably not the Becky one. Or do you mean the 2 NXT matches?
The NXT matches.
Sorry, I thought you meant the Becky brawl. I was like, I doubt they.
She just sort of threw a punch wildly. You know what she did? She basically was crowd killing, which I'm not for at a fucking gig.
No, absolutely not. That was unsafe, and it very, very nearly cost us Becky and Ronda, which was the money match. Thankfully, they managed to put that on.
So it did cost us Becky and Ronda.
Only at Survivor Series, I think, ultimately led to a better feel-good moment with the women headlining WrestleMania.
Yeah, but I personally think that should have been 1-on-1. We don't have time for me to talk about how...
I agree with you. I think it should have been 1-on-1.
We'll talk about Charlotte Flair shoehorning in the NXT.
Let's move to the second person then who's got heat backstage in the WWE locker room, and that is one Jackson Riker, who basically thought that this week of all weeks was the time to push his shitty catchphrase. Basically, Donald Trump has put something out, something derogatory and basically just completely wrong, as is his wont. And Jackson Riker spoke out on Twitter saying, thankful for the @POTUS, which is Donald Trump's Twitter handle, we have. God bless America, built of freedom, forgotten no more. This in itself was bad, and he was called out by many a WWE wrestlers, such as Kevin Owens, Mustafa Ali, his own tag team teammates.
Can we quickly talk about how amazingly calm Mustafa Ali is when he gets abuse on Twitter?
I think Mustafa Ali is the perfect embodiment of how to use Twitter.
He is a wonderful man, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't think Mustafa Ali has got a bad bone in his body.
You remember that story of a teacher DM'd him and was like, hey, no, like after them going, hey, can you retweet this? So because we need these supplies, can you just retweet the wish list? And then he bought them all.
Yeah. Obviously then Joey Janela and Hangman Page piled on as well as Batista. Joey Janela saying someone's going to shit in his bag backstage, which I found really funny. This was compounded slightly, not slightly, massively, by the surfacing of a screenshot of his 2019 Facebook post. This read, pretty touchy subject, but all this Black Lives Matter garbage baffles me. I challenge anyone of any colour or race to go and watch 12 Years a Slave, the movie, and realise how good you all actually have it. Learn heritage, Christ, Gandhi, Buddha, they all taught love and caring for others. This is getting out of hand. I pray for this nation daily.
Oh my lord. Okay, so very quickly, I'm not one for digging up people's distant past, because I am one who believes that people can change, but also that was 6 months ago. Jesus Christ. Also, there's so many layers to that is wrong. So many, right? Just the headline there is just because a set of people have it better doesn't mean they have it good.
Yeah. If this week has taught us anything, Chris, is that no, people of colour do not have it good at all. The amount of videos and tweets and everything that's coming out, and you are seeing the abuse that they are getting on a regular basis just because of the colour of their skin. No, they are not getting it better, for fuck's sake, you absolute fucking moron.
Right, so very quickly, I want to point out, it's another wrestling creator actually, called Tyler Williams on YouTube. And made a video after Chris Jericho tweeted All Lives Matter. No, he commented it on an Instagram post. It was something like that. And then he went over like an altercation he had with the police and saying, we were perfectly cordial, but I was scared for my life and I shouldn't have been. But that's what it's like being a black man in America. And it's like, yeah. But it amazes me how people just minimize people's experience and just statistics, and we don't have solid statistics. Everyone's like, oh, show solid statistics. The police, a lot of states allow for burning of police records, so every time something like this comes up, they just burn the records. And I don't want this to be a political podcast, but just no. If you come up and go, well, all lives matter, I don't respect your opinion.
The thing is, and we put at the start of the podcast our stance on this. We stand with you. We can't understand any of your suffering because we don't have it. As three white men that do a podcast.
Yeah, we're too incredibly white to understand, but we empathize and we definitely believe.
Yeah, we stand with you. The thing is, there's two things that really wind me up. Now, yes, people are saying all lives matter. Yes, you're absolutely right. But the tweet that I saw sums this up perfectly. Yes, all lives matter. But when you call out the fucking fire brigade, you ask them to target the house that's on fire, not every fucking one on the street.
You know what it is? It's like if someone broke their leg and you turn to the other, and you turn to you're on your, and you rush down to make sure the dude's okay, and there's one other guy in the room, and you turn to the guy in the room and go, hey, call the ambulance, and he's just there with his arms crossed going, well, what about my legs? Yeah,
it's, again, we put something at the start of the podcast that show, we have nothing but support.
Didn't the other Forgotten Sons denounce this?
Yeah, Blake and Cutler have both come out with different things saying that they support the Black Lives Movement. It's admittedly, the one from 2019 being dredged up now, bad
timing.
It is bad timing, but it's still not a good. It's not a good thing to put on Facebook.
Yeah. It's not long enough for me to believe that he's changed his views, especially when he saw 1 million people posting what we did on Tuesday, and then went, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to retweet Donald Trump, and also I'm going to push my wrestling gimmick, which is being oppressed.
Let's not lose sight of the fact here that a man lost his life needlessly. And that needs to be the underlying thing. A man lost his life for what? For no reason. For no earthly reason. And this... It's blindness. It's complete blindness. It's turning the other cheek to a comical degree. You know, why, of all the things that have been said this week, why on earth would you retweet the president this week and try and get over your shit-ass catchphrase? You aren't even in ring, Jackson Riker. You are the person on the outside that no one gives a fucking shit about.
Yeah, you don't even come from... Right, I want to try to draw an underline here, because otherwise we will just be angrily ranting about this. And rightfully so, but this isn't what this podcast is, so I'm going to try and draw a line under it here. And just say, our stance here is fuck Riker and fuck Trump, and we support Black Lives Matter. I think, I might be wrong, but Rob's put in info of how to donate in either the description or in our Twitter, like somewhere. I'm not sure where. I don't handle that shit.
It's in the description for the podcast.
Okay, cool. Info on where to donate is there.
Yeah.
Just, if you can do, we understand if you can't. Okay, let's move on, because otherwise we'll be mad for the whole podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So we move on then to some news from Bushi Road, who are the company that own both New Japan and World Wondering Stardom. Some good news coming out of Japan when they lifted the state of emergency. Couple of weeks ago, Harold May obviously gave that roadmap of what life was going to look like for New Japan going forward. He said that obviously the first thing that would need to go would be the state of emergency, and then some other factors would have to be put in place and other criteria would have to be met, and then we could start looking at empty arena shows and things like that. Bushi Road released a statement on June 3rd. This is what it read. Bushi Road Limited has concealed and postponed many events from February in consideration of the situation of new coronavirus infection. With the cancellation of the emergency declaration, we have decided to restart live events such as professional wrestling, stage performances, and live music performances, and have decided to carry out antibody tests for all athletes and performers for safety and security. We will inform you. For all live events such as New Japan Pro Wrestling performances, Stardom performances, theatrical group Airship performances, and Bushi Road Music live performances, a doctor will perform an antibody test in advance for all players and performers, as well as staff members who are closely related. So, the first thing that I'm going to say about that is that the antibody test is a test for if you have had the coronavirus, not if you currently have it. So, again, I don't really know what... I expected a little bit more from Bushi Road, especially as New Japan have been the company to sort of go, no, we are not coming back till everything is sorted. But on a more positive note, it does look like very, very soon, dates being bandied about are the start of July, we could very, very realistically be getting New Japan and Stardom events without crowds, more than likely, for a while before we then go to half capacity. What we aren't getting, though, Chris, is Dominion, which has quietly been taken off the New Japan calendar.
Yeah, I saw hope from in New Japan Group Zoom this morning that would go ahead. I'm looking at going, with how cautious Bushi Road have been, I don't see that going ahead. Although I do agree with you, I'm surprised they're not going... I don't know anything about corona testing, but just from the limited that I know, that seems weirdly out of character for Bushi Road. Maybe they can get the tests they want, I'm not sure. But yeah, that does seem...
I don't know how it works, Chris. I honestly don't know how it works. That's I know that's what it does because I looked into it and I listened to podcasts that said this is what it does. But if they're running empty arena shows, that might well be enough. I don't know.
Yeah. To be honest, with that, as long as they're not putting any at-risk person on there, so essentially as long as Yuji Nagata's not on the card, we're fine. Although I wouldn't want to be the virus going up against Nagata. Jesus Christ. But yeah, a lot of what we heard here was sort of in line with what we're going forward with. It's just lifting the state of emergency in Tokyo isn't enough. We're going to look into it, and then we're going to decide what we're going to do going forward. That's been what Bushiroada's been doing, and they can afford to do so. So I'm kind of happy they're taking that sort of ethical route for they're doing what's probably best for their staff, which is unbelievably commendable in given what other wrestling companies have been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's looking hopefully this means we are getting the G1 Climax. All Japan have already rearranged their Champion Carnival with just Japanese talent. So it's looking like that could potentially be the same, because that's taking place in September, I believe. So the G1 Climax is slated for October. I imagine it's going to be roughly the same thing. Having a G1 is better than no G1 at all. However, it does mean people like Zack Sabre Jr., Will Ospreay won't be in this year's tournament. Also, it's worth noting that Hiromu Takahashi mentioned about potentially having the best of the Super Juniors and the G1 Climax going at the same time. Now, you would be forgiven for just thinking that's Hiromu Takahashi being Hiromu Takahashi. However...
Honestly, let's do this all the time. We do mention shit like this in interviews just in the hope that someone in their company is listening.
Well, just to give you some kind of context there, the last time this was done was Naito throwing out the idea of the double championship.
And also Ospreay going heavyweight. So there is precedent.
100%.
But also, it's a wrestler in an interview, so we just don't know for sure. If it is, though, Champions Carnival, Best of Super Juniors, and G1 going on all in September, October time. Jesus Christ.
And this is without confirmation at the moment as to whether Stardom's 5-star Grand Prix will be taking place or whether that'll be pushed back. So we could potentially be having 4 tournaments all at once, Chris.
All round robin tournaments.
All round robin tour. Jesus Christ, mate. We'll have gone from no wrestling to instantly too much wrestling.
Because right now, I'm pretty sure we are doing a little rewatch projects. Go check out the Young Lion cast. But yeah, it's gonna go from grasping at straws for wrestling. I mean, I watched fucking NXT twice this week, and then to all the wrestling. And I'm not quite sure my body can take that, bro.
No. The only thing that I'm thinking about the Best of Super Juniors and the G1 Climax taking place at the same time. If it's still a case of empty arena shows, fine. Then obviously that's going to be fine. And with New Japan World, excellent. The only thing I'm thinking is, if by that point we are having crowds, half capacity or not, are they then going to struggle getting people to both the Best of the Super Juniors and G1 Climax? Because the people that want to go to the G1 Climax are the same people who will want to go to the Best of the Super Juniors. And in direct competition with each other, I think both me and you will agree, you're going to watch the G1 Climax.
Yeah, and basically what you're going to do, you're going to watch the Takahashi matches in the Super Juniors and then jump right onto the G1. I have a suggestion for this one.
Okay.
In the 90s, the J Crown tournament happened next to the G1. So essentially it would be a single elimination happening alongside a round robin. So you're going to have a smaller G1 field anyway, because otherwise you're going to have Tenzan in there, and nobody wants that. Not even Tenzan. So just have that, and then have 4 matches, and then have 1 match from the single elimination tournament on each.
Well, the chances are, Chris, the way I thought that they could do it is potentially the way they used to do the G1 is it used to all be G1 matches every night. So, I mean, I think you're probably right that the G1 field, if it goes ahead, the G1 field is going to have to be condensed, because there'll be no Ospreay, there'll be no Zack Sabre Jr., there'll be no Jeff Cobb, there'll be no Moxley, there's no Lance Archer. Juice lives in Japan, so it's fine.
Is it? I thought he was in England right now.
No,
Tony Storm just put up a photo on Instagram.
I think that's from before. I'm sure Juice Robinson lives in Japan.
Does he? Okay.
I'm sure he does. But there straight away, that is 5 members of the roster that won't be in. So you can assume that Suzuki will take one of the places. Presumably, much as we both hate it, Yoshihashi will take one of the places.
I'm fine with Yoshihashi. He's acting like 2017 Yoshihashi. He hit well.
So, yeah, it will probably be a shortened field. The chances are, I mean, the best of the Super Juniors has been hit even worse because they're not going to be able to get any of the CMLL talent.
No, the Ring of Honor talent, because that's a very foreign heavy tour. Like I think that's the most foreign heavy tour on the. I think with something mad like 40% of the people on that tour weren't New Japan contracted.
Yeah, so, I mean, potentially what you could do is you could just eliminate the 6-man tags at the start of the G1 and just throw some best of the Super Junior matches on.
I guess, but that would be tiring.
It would be tiring, but with smaller fields, because the best of the Super Juniors, you are going to have to do smaller fields.
I think the best thing you can do is turn the Super Juniors into like a impromptu J-Cup.
Single elimination.
Yeah, like do that and then bring in guys from Noah, All Japan, and Dragon Gate just to fill out the field and then have like that. Because honestly, I think that would be a lot less tiring than having two blocks, 4 blocks of 6. I think even like one single elimination and 2 blocks of 8 will be less tiring because Jesus Christ, the G1 is already hard enough.
Yeah, I think if they were to they'd sacrifice the best of the Super Juniors over the G1, absolutely. But you look at the best of the Super Juniors, we talked about who they were missing out of the G1 Climax. You're missing all of the CMLL talent, all of the Ring of Honor talent, as well as Ospreay, Shingo.
And also, who else is missing? Because someone left, didn't they? Am I imagining things? No, I'm not. I am imagining things. I'm thinking of the G1. Never mind, continue.
So, yeah, we'll wait and see where this pans out. It's exciting times for fans of Japanese wrestling. Hopefully, soon, and when the time is right, we will be getting Japanese wrestling on our screens again.
Have you watched any of the MT Arena stuff from like All Japan and DDT? Well, I know you don't care about DDT, but like All Japan or Noah.
I haven't. I'll be perfectly honest. With everything else, and obviously with work kicking back in, I just haven't had time.
It's been alright actually. Apart from someone fucking hoodwinked me. Several people actually told me that the Noah main event like last month was great. The Go Shiozaki defense against the big guy who I keep forgetting the name of.
Flamita.
Yeah. And then we just stared at each other for half a fucking hour.
Honestly, guys, I wish you could have seen the WhatsApp feed of Chris going, they're still staring at each other and there's 2 minutes gone, 4 minutes gone. And I genuinely didn't have the heart to tell him that it went on for another half an hour.
You told me when it went to like 15 minutes, it's like, yeah, we just stare at each other for 35 minutes. I'm like, fuck you. You waited 15 minutes.
Never mind. Anyway, moving on from Japan. Let's go on to some Impact Wrestling news. Before we get into the big Impact news of this week, interesting to know that me and Garth, a couple of weeks ago on This Week in Wrestling, spoke about the Virtual Basement game, which, for those who haven't seen it, looks really, really ambitious and really, really good.
Sorry, what is this?
Virtual Basement is they're developing a wrestling game at the moment. Basically, they're giving contracts to all these independent wrestlers to have their likenesses in the game, and they've released screenshots, and they look absolutely incredible. They're trying to make this the most customizable game, and make it the best game they possibly can. And they contracted a load of Impact talent and a load of Ring of Honor talent. Unfortunately, as of the 3rd of June, Impact have sent a memo round to block all of their talent taking place. So at the moment, just to give you some indication of who is actually signed for this game, you've got Ken Shamrock, Matt Taven, Brian Pillman Jr., Matt Sydal, Brian Cage, Leo Rush, Eli Drake, all and many, many more. I think Tay Conti, who's just been released from NXT, she's now been given a contract for this game. Unfortunately, like I said, Impact have pulled all of their entire roster from this game. Nothing else has been announced as to why this is happening. It just said that a memo went out to all Impact talent to say that basically asking them to refuse to be in the game, even if they had already agreed, which a massive, massive amount already had.
That's such like an old school TNA move, and I thought Impact is better than that now.
Well, it does.
Going back.
It does beg the question as to whether are Impact producing their own video game, but I highly doubt that.
Also begs the question of who the fuck would give them a video game deal?
Well, this sort of brings me to my next point. There's been a lack of buzz at the moment around Impact Wrestling. There's been a lack of buzz about wrestling full stop, to be perfectly honest, but Impact especially. And there's been something released on Tuesday and Wednesday, a teaser trailer that aired on Impact Wrestling for their Slammiversary show, Slammiversary 2020, which will air on July 18th. And why this was so important is that on this short teaser trailer, you have a man who is drinking a glass of whiskey and watching a TV screen with words, "You're fired," on the screen, and it fires through a load of images. Some of these images are on the screen for longer than others. Some of them are literally blink and you'll miss it. However, some lovely, lovely person has screenshotted all of these little teases.
Can I quickly remember them all?
Go on then.
Okay, so there was a Bulgarian flag for Rusev, obviously. Just a straight up screenshot of EC3. Same with the Good Brothers. Same with Eric Young, but he was another blink and you'll miss it. There was also one for... who was it?
Mike and Maria.
Oh, crap. Say that again?
Mike and Maria, yeah. And Drake Maverick.
Yeah, we'll get on to him.
Now, the thing I wanted to ask you, Chris, of all those people, I mean, the massive, massive implications of this are that one or more of these talent, as well as Kurt Hawkins, that was the one we forgot.
Hawkins, yeah.
Of all of these people, right, they're saying that some of these will appear at Slammiversary. Of all of these talent, I mean, these are the top tier, the cream of the crop of those releases.
And, well, also Deanna Purrazzo, but, she's already debuted, hasn't she? So.
Well, there's video packages. I don't know if she debuted. There was a video package announcing that she'd signed.
Apparently she was at the tapings, so...
Of those members of the roster that, those however many people that they teased, how many do you actually see realistically going to Impact Wrestling?
That's a hard one. Because, with the Good Brothers, we've been obviously we're going straight back to New Japan, but, two things stop that. One, neither me or you can really place a good place for him. Bullet Club seems natural, but they're still right now, basically. We have to sign up saying no homers. And, TNA would be a good rest up. Mike and Maria, how easy is it to get a fucking babysitter at this time?
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I said it as soon as Garth was raving about it, because you know what he, every time Impact gets any kind of buzz. And I was just what should be Tito Ortiz? Because that's what I'm expecting. That's fully what I'm expecting.
It would be a proper kick in the teeth, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like it was with August 1 Warning, TNA.
I'm fully expecting, because from the releases, the actual date that the 90-day non-compete clause runs out is the 18th of July, the day of Slammiversary. So, legally, any member of this roster, or any member of these releases, could actually go to Impact. I honestly do not expect Rusev to go there.
Nor do I. I don't know where if I was Rusev, I don't know where I'd go, to be honest.
I 100% expect EC3 to debut in Impact, or re-debut in Impact.
He was great in Impact. I miss good EC3, which we even got for a spell in NXT, and then they stopped for some reason.
If you follow him on Instagram, you've seen that he's jacked. Oh my god.
The 70s porno facial hair going on.
Yeah, he looks incredible, and this character thing he's doing looks quite engaging, so yeah.
He looks like he's about to fix your plumbing, if you know what we mean.
I can see him debuting at the end of the title match, being the big reveal, challenging the champion. It wouldn't surprise me if Eric Young re-debuted in Impact.
Yeah, Eric Young had a weird time in Impact. He went from basically being Eugene to being Daniel Bryan to being a mini Bram.
To being a superhero, to being the women's champion.
Oh, no, those were like rest stops in between. They were like side quests.
I am right in thinking that Eric Young was the Impact Women's Champion.
Yeah, he was.
That's all right then.
Yeah, and then it got activated. And then, like, finally, after like half a year of it, someone was like, by the way, Eric Young, you're stripped of the championship. Obviously you are.
I don't know about Kurt Hawkins. Obviously, we know the answer to Drake Maverick already. We'll get into that in a moment. The club is the one I'm not sure about, because even if they do go back to New Japan, and I still fully expect them to go back to New Japan, I think that the Bullet Club would open them with welcome arms. I don't think that'd be an issue. I do think that they could have some manner of deal where they are allowed to appear in America, and Impact will be perfect for that.
How realistic is Japan for them for the rest of the year? They need to do something.
Absolutely. So they could debut here, take out whoever the Impact Tag Team Champions. Is it still the North?
The North.
Is it still the North?
The North. The North are great.
Oh, yeah. They're brilliant. They could debut there, attack the tag champs. So, I do... Mike Kanellis, I'd expect him really Ring of Honor.
You say that, he was a big thing in TNA.
He was, but, he had the whole Kingdom thing with Taven. It makes sense to go back there.
Like, in Ring of Honor, the Kingdom, from what I understand, I don't watch Ring of Honor because I find it dull as pig shit, but the whole Kingdom thing's falling apart right now, and like he's in a feud with the rest of the Kingdom, is Taven.
I knew he was in a feud with Vinny Marseglia at one point.
Yeah, I think he still is.
Well, fair enough. So yeah, interesting times, and I think it's a good hook to get people watching that pay-per-view. I do think, even though it was only a blink and you'll miss it thing, people will watch that pay-per-view.
I'm going to watch Slammiversary now, mostly because there's dick all else wrestling to watch right now, but still.
That's a good point. Well, you say that, Chris. I'm glad you brought that up. So, at the moment, Florida is in a very weird place in their coronavirus sort of battle. They're part of, or somewhere in the country recently, announced the highest amount of infections that they'd had, but on the flip side, they are testing more.
Okay, yeah, I'm about ruining my joke really, because I'm like, they may have the most cases, but also they have the most wrestling.
No, they are they do more testing, so obviously they're going to find more infection. Almost, I think it's 64 out of the 67 I think it's counties, I don't know why it's split into, are into phase 2 of their reopening after coronavirus, and they are laying out a roadmap where entertainment venues are allowed half capacity. So you're looking at AEW and WWE, who are at the moment obviously based in Florida, and there is a very, very real possibility that AEW tapings, things like Daily's Place, could quite legitimately have a crowd, and so could the Performance Center. And then it also means that we could quite happily be looking at SummerSlam with a crowd. It's a very real thing to be looking at. And I think that's exciting for any wrestling fan.
Yeah. I'd be more excited if Florida had a better policy up until now.
Well, there is that. Say what you want about that. They've kept us going with wrestling, so I suppose we can't complain too much.
I guess, yeah. Who cares about the residents of Florida?
Anyway, also just quickly to tag on to the end of the Florida news. They announced on Dynamite on Wednesday that Fyter Fest 2020, the show that was originally meant to be in London, England, fuck's sake, Corona.
We have been robbed of another wrestle road trip. Fucking Garth. I could have went down to Newcastle, met Garth, we picked Rob up down in Stoke, all the way to London, boys listening to indie music, because Rob sure as hell not picking the music in the car, all the way down. It's amazing.
It's a shame, but we are getting it, and it's not going to be on pay-per-view. It is instead going to be a 2-night affair with all the titles on the line, and we are going to have all 4 of them. We are going to have night 1 on July 1st, the July 1st episode of Dynamite, and the second on the July 8th episode of Dynamite. But they are going to basically be their pay-per-view shows. They're just giving it to us for free, which is quite nice, and they're bringing it to TNT.
Like what Impact did when we were unable to afford pay-per-view.
Exactly. So far, the only announced matches are Jon Moxley versus Brian Cage for the AEW World Championship, and then Kenny Omega and Adam Page versus the Best Friends for the Tag Team Championships.
It's not an awful card. I'm a bit apprehensive about what we'll do with Cage and Moxley, but I was the same with Lee and Moxley, but also Cage. I know Cage has more of an aura than Lee does. We're a bit out right now, so like I guess we can give them time. I don't know. I'm not sure how to feel about it right now. The tag match should be great. The tag division is consistently my favorite thing about AEW. So
I think you've got to remember as well, Chris, we have got just under a month to build to that. So yeah, there's more than enough time.
It's why I don't have any thoughts, positive or negative yet. I want to see how the story goes before I give my proper tune in next week, essentially.
Moving on from AEW, let's talk about NXT. Obviously, they've got their big NXT Takeover in Your House show this weekend. And it's been an interesting time on TV. We have a new NXT Cruiserweight Champion, which we'll talk about in a minute because it directly brings up another point. But Chris, I want to give you time to talk about the cage match between Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher with Kurt Angle, who they suspiciously unfired.
Not just that, he added nothing.
I don't really understand why he was the guest ref. I assume to bring more eyes to it.
Yeah, no, because NXT are desperate for rating, but they're getting a bit better about, you know how before they'd have like a million different invasion angles, like we were in the midst of like the second UK invasion angle before Corona happened. And then Corona happened, they dropped them, and they're like, oh fuck, we're going to have to tell actual stories. So, like, at that point, I'm like, sure, I'll check them out. And you know what? These last 2 weeks of TV have been decent. Like, they're not 2014, 2015 NXT, but they've still been good. And that cage match, which you asked me to talk about, is my WWE match of the year so far.
Okay.
It's so good.
I've heard very, very good things about it.
Right, so you know how essentially my wrestling kink is when they fight like they're actually fighting?
Yes.
Yeah, so like they did, like even when in, like for example, just to sort of illustrate what I'm going to say for the rest of this, Thatcher had Riddle in a sleeper hold, and Riddle tried to use the cage to leverage over. Like, and he kept going for it until he just couldn't. That's what sort of match this is. Nothing is contrived, because of course it's not. It's Timothy Thatcher. This match would, if it doesn't make Timothy Thatcher a star, I do not understand wrestling fans. Both men just fought their heart out. People legitimately believed that Thatcher lost teeth from this, which was beautiful. It's so good. I can't think of any match in WWE that would even come close this year. Maybe a couple of the Bryan matches, because he's amazing, obviously. But like I said it in the chat, if anything on any takeover this year comes close to this, I'll be surprised.
Yeah, I mean we are going to preview and give our official predictions for NXT Takeover in Your House. Of the matches on that card, I would be very, very surprised if anything tops that tag match from what you've said.
Just like you guys,
this has been one of the biggest stories on NXT. Like, this is what I've been hearing about, and this is what got me interested in, like, giving the weekly show a go again. So, like, I'm surprised this wasn't on TakeOver, especially given one of the matches on TakeOver.
Well, I wonder, and I said this to you not long ago, I wonder if it's because Matt Riddle is going to debut on SmackDown this Friday.
I guess, but it hasn't stopped them before. Like, Owens was on like 2 takeovers after he debuted. Balor was kind of the same. I'm trying to think of other examples, but like I don't watch WWE. Nakamura, I think, was also on a takeover afterwards. Like they always have that one last takeover, and we're just not letting them have it, and they easily could because they're shooting them in the same place. I don't know, but what I will say is I'm surprised there's no tag team match on this takeover, because although also right now the tag division is a clusterfuck. Because like for the past few weeks, we've been building up like Birch and Lurkin as like these challenges, because they're like, oh, we're having such good chemistry. They're trying to rebound into the story. But you know who? There was also there was a number 1 contenders match this week, Rob. It was Birch and Lurkin, Undisputed Era, and Breezango. Guess who won?
Oh, not Breezango.
It was Breezango. So, like, the video packages for Birch and Lurkin and, like, the little teasers in matches for Birch and Lurkin for the last, like, month or so out the window.
Who got pinned?
Undisputed Era.
Oh, well, that's all right then.
Yeah, that's fine, but still.
Yeah, that's not good. Oh, Jesus.
Like, the story was there. Imperium were in the building that night. Literally. So, like, obviously, they're in the United States. Just have Birch and Lurkin win that match instead of a match for TakeOver, because we have a useless 6-man on TakeOver. So you can't tell me you couldn't either add that match to TakeOver, because this clearly isn't a traditional TakeOver, or you could cut something on here.
Oh yeah, like you absolutely could.
Balor and Priest could definitely be moved to the pre-show, because like it's only been built in video packages on NXT in the last 2 weeks, so it wasn't even like mentioned on NXT this week.
No. So obviously one of the big things going on in NXT at the moment is the quest for a new cruiserweight champion, and basically we had a mini best of the Super Juniors round robin tournament, with the final taking place this week. Now, it is important to note that one of the people in this final was recently released Drake Maverick. So the match took place between El Hijo del Fantasma and Drake Maverick, and I'll let you talk about it.
Well, there's not much to talk about. It's just a solid TV main event. Fantasma was obviously the heel. Maverick was obviously the valiant babyface, good at selling. Fantasma was King Cuerno in Lucha Underground, so therefore has the best suicide drive in the business. Although, want to know something that's funny? I saw on Jordan Devlin's Instagram.
Oh God, what? Go on.
Jordan Devlin posted a photo of him with the championship going, the 1 true cruiserweight champion. And then Flash Morgan Webster commented, that's not what Regal said. And then Devlin just replied, "I'll chin Regal."
I would love to see that, to be fair.
I love Devlin so much. I kind of think, I somewhat understand, but kind of think it's shitty that he's been stripped. But still. Fantasma will be Maverick, and then Maverick's doing the thing where he's crying. He's like, "Oh my God, I've lost my job for the second time in 2 months." And then he got offered a contract like Cedric Alexander in the Cruiserweight Classic, and that's what we were about to talk about, because that is such a shitty storyline. Sorry, continue.
No, not at all. So, what... You've got 2 ways of looking at this. You've got 2 ways of looking at this.
Probably storyline was. So Maverick was released, 2 months ago now, in that big Wednesday purge. And obviously we've ranted about how unethical that was on several occasions. Maverick was already signed for this tournament, so it's like, right, can you just fulfill these dates, we'll pay you. And he's probably like, yeah, sure, because it's not like I have a fucking job to go to. And then, like, through the course of like his Twitter video going viral, basically, they were like, okay, he's hot now, we're going to rehire him. And we're trying to put forward of, oh, he lost his job, but he scrapped and clawed his way back into his job. And I'm sort of like, there were ethical ways to go. Like, for example, this was just sort of independent of all this shit. If they'd have put this on ice somehow, like, I understand, like, it was born out of circumstance, but, like, if the storyline was, say, put on ice, and then, like, you had the same tournament going into, say, 2021 when things are somewhat back to normal, and you're, like, and you release a different thing going, Drake Maverick released by WWE, and then you can just say, well, these shows were taped or whatever, and like going forwards, and same storyline plays out. That would be like a great little redemption arc, and it would get Drake Maverick over. Here, you're essentially going, oh, these half dozen people were released, and Drake Maverick had the initiative of crying on Twitter because his dream just got wrenched away from him. And, like, I'm not being funny. You look at all these people who lost their jobs, so, like, the Canalises who have family, same with Ryder, same with Hawkins. You look at, again, same with Gallows, same with Anderson, but they had, like, an obvious destination. Rusev, who was a sweetheart and he offered his last paycheck to those released. Deanna Purrazzo, who just didn't have a job. Like, all these people who lost their jobs, and like, it's too numerous to name. And like, Lance Storm closed down his school, and like, oh, he scratched and clawed. It's like, no fuckers, you had no one else to put in this tournament. You picked one guy, he happened to get over, and you thought, we'll capitalize on it. And so essentially they cashed in on them saving money that they didn't need to save because they're on record for record profits. It's great. WWE are a really ethical company. I am so happy that I don't pay to watch their products.
Voices of Wrestling sum this up perfectly with the following tweet. So, they either worked a firing during a pandemic while legitimately firing other people, or they legit fired a man during a pandemic, then had him wrestling without a contract that culminated in him getting his job back for real. I can't figure out which is more heartless.
Me neither.
That's the perfect epitomization of this feud.
If this feud happened in literally any other context, I would think this is a great little redemption arc. This is a great way to get Drake Maverick over, because that's what he's always been, Rockstar Spud. He's that like plucky little underdog. Again, any other context, and I hate that it's been born out of literally dozens of people losing their jobs.
That's the thing. I think you are absolutely 100% correct. It's on a wider scale. Do you remember when the brand split happened and you had Heath Slater fighting for the contract, then he won the tag titles?
It's that exact storyline, and Heath Slater got over.
But it was with that, this was on a much bigger scale, and obviously then it was all shrouded in all of these legitimate firings, and you've got to wonder, it depends what side of the line you fall on. Do you think Drake Maverick was actually released, or do you think this was an entire work? And if it's an entire work, how poor a taste is that to do that whilst legitimately offloading dozens of people?
We should be very clear. We're so happy that Drake Maverick, because this is Drake Maverick's dream, like being
God, yes.
Like, we're so happy for Drake Maverick. We are pissed off at WWE for using legitimate firings and capitalizing on someone getting over. Because, like, don't get anything wrong. WWE didn't get Maverick over. Maverick crying over getting fired is what got Maverick over.
And I just want to clarify that, or quantify what Chris has just said. We are not saying that Drake Maverick cried in order to get over. That was legitimate emotion.
That's not acting. That's definitely not acting. And if it is, give the man a fucking Grammy.
Chris, there's no way the man faked that. That was legitimate emotion in the face of having his dream shattered in front of him. And then to do that to him and then have him wrestle because, and in air quotation marks, he'd already been booked on the shows. Take him out the tournament then.
Yeah, it's not like he didn't have... Like, look at that audience. You had plenty of people under the 205 pounds you could have just thrown in there, you know what I mean? And the best way I can put it, this is the best storyline that I hate.
I'm going to sign this off, Chris, by saying the exact same thing you said. And that is...
It's the best storyline, but...
No, by saying thank God that Drake Maverick still has a job, and Drake Maverick has this job. He's going to work in NXT, and he's going to continue to be massively over. But in the wake of everything that went on, there was something extremely unethical going on here, and you basically need to work out which side you believe, whether you think it was legit or whether you think it was a work. Either way, it's not fair. It's not fair. Speaking
Shall
of...
we get on Takeover, man?
Not quite, mate. Not quite.
Oh.
Because speaking of hugely unethical, at the moment on SmackDown, we are enjoying a lovely storyline involving Jeff Hardy. So, at the start of SmackDown on Friday, Elias was hit in a hit and run, basically, and the implication was that Jeff Hardy had hit him whilst drunk driving. Building on, obviously, his prior struggles with substances and with drink and whatever. I'm just going to say, before I throw to Chris, because I imagine we have the exact same opinion of this, I hate this storyline. I hated when they did it with Jake the Snake Roberts, and I hate it now. Playing on someone's demons is not okay and has never been okay. If Jeff's okayed this, fine. I still hate it. We are taking advantage of a man who has openly struggled on TV. I mean, Victory Road 2011, for God's sake. I mean, that man has had issues and is struggling with them to this day. And it's scummy, it's in bad taste, and I hate it. Are you telling me that there is no other way to get Jeff Hardy, one of the most iconic wrestlers of the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era, you're telling me there's no other way to get him over than to utilise his drink and drug problem? No. Bollocks. Absolute bollocks. I completely understand you wanting to get real-world stuff into your product and real-world grit into your storylines. This is wank. Don't do it.
Yeah, this has never worked well. You look at the history of people's personal demons being brought. Like, don't get me wrong, it can be utilised in storyline to be effective. It's happened twice with Jeff Hardy, actually. Look at the Samoa Joe feud, look at the CM Punk feud. But that's them mentioning it and Hardy going, yeah, that's not me now. Whereas this is like Hardy pretending to be an addict for TV when he's been an addict. Like, I'm trying to, like, Scott Hall in WCW, Jake Roberts in WWF, Hawk in WWF. You know what all these three storylines have in common? They all based on relapses, and oh boy, did all three people have relapses. And I don't care if Jeff Hardy thinks it's behind him. He said that so many times, and that hasn't been the case. And that's not an indictment on Jeff Hardy. That's just reality. And I'm sorry, Jeff Hardy's signing off on this. That's not an excuse. This is a company who has fired people for less, and then made documentaries about how they're hard to work with. Yeah. So I'm not being funny. If your whole thing is, well, Jeff Hardy must have signed off on it, this is a company who has done a lot worse to people for a lot less.
Last thing then, before we move on to the NXT Takeover in Your House predictions, the official PodMania predictions, I just want to quickly get your thoughts, Chris. I know you're not currently a WWE Network subscriber and probably will never be again, but obviously this week, the WWE have finally put the wheels in motion of the tiered level of the WWE Network. It's been bandied about, an idea that's been bandied about for years.
We discussed this, didn't we?
Pardon?
We discussed this last year because me and Garth had conflicting views on Progress and IPW and Evolve being on the network. Yeah,
originally that was the idea, and I think that will probably still be the idea if I'm perfectly honest, but we've got, at the moment, WWE have released plans for the free tier of the WWE Network, which will include all of the original programming done for the network and select Takeover and reviews and current Raws and SmackDowns, which are uploaded. I think it's 3 weeks behind or 4 weeks behind. I can't quite remember. For free, without having to pay anything, it's actually quite a good deal.
I've seen that. It's like select pay-per-views, the weekly TVs on the countback. I think that's what you get.
Yeah, I must admit, it doesn't seem bad. I mean, I do pay for the network, and I do watch a lot of the retro stuff because that's my jam. But I would be interested to see, to get all of the stuff that we currently get for $9.99 a month. I will be very, very interested now to see what they're going to hike the price up to, because I remember when we talked about this last time, Chris, the price that was bandied about was $14.99 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Which
that was to also get indie shows, wasn't it? And then we were going to keep how it was at what you get currently at 10, and then at 5 you don't get live pay-per-views, but you get the back catalogue.
Yeah, I don't think you can watch pay-per-views live. I think you have to wait and stuff like that. But again, to be honest, for the stuff that we get now, I think $9.99 is a steal anyway, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, but still until you realise that they're paying $9.99 in America as well, so they're paying less.
Do you know what? Again, I'm paying less than I should be. I don't particularly care. I'd be very interested to see what they're going to put on top of this to make it the elite level of programming, whether that is your progresses, your evolves, and things like that. Or whether it's just a case of them creating a shed load more content that only elite level tiers can access. I don't know.
Talking about that global expansion, maybe all of a sudden, as soon as the pandemic's over, they're like, oh, by the way, NXT India, NXT Japan, NXT Australia. We're killing all we've seen at once, boys. We're amazing. I
would be incredibly surprised if NXT Japan even happens. But yeah, I think we could have that.
Like, when you think Stardom basically jumped into bed with New Japan and Noah jumped into bed with DDT just to stop it happening.
Yeah, 100%. I'd be very, very surprised. But yeah, we'll keep tabs on that because that's an interesting developing story. So, Chris, finally, let's move on to NXT Takeover, the official PodMania predictions. Now, obviously, Garth isn't here, but he has sent a list of his predictions. So, let's start. We'll start off with the match that's been added this week, the 6-woman tag match. The teams are Mia Yim, Shotzi Blackheart, and Tegan Nox, taking on Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, and Raquel Gonzalez. Chris, who have you got, and why do you have them?
I'm going to go with the heel team of LeRae, Kai, and Gonzalez, just because LeRae turned heel, a month ago, in that awful Gargano Ciampa match. So, you'd be wasting a heel turn, and I understand I'm booking logically in WWE, but still, I don't want to waste LeRae's heel turn, so have her pick up the victory. I think that's why Blackheart's on the other team. It's weird. How much of Blackheart have you seen?
Very little.
Okay, so she has to make it. She reminds me a bit of Chris Statlander, in the sense of I imagine both you and Garth will hate her, but I love her.
She reminds me very much of a Ruby Riott, who, let's face it, has been shat on the main roster. So
she comes to the ring in the little tank.
I have seen that. I've seen promos for her, but I've seen no in-ring stuff apart from the stuff that's referenced.
She had a feud with Shayna Baszler because she eliminated Baszler in a battle royal.
Oh, in that number one contendership battle royale.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going for the exact same team for the exact same reason. I think they're putting a lot of stall, not just in LeRae and her current heel turn, but also in Dakota Kai as well. I think Tegan Nox has got nothing but good things in her future. I think, Shotzi Blackheart is something interesting, but I think similar to you, there are two people in this match who are potential pin eaters, and that is Raquel Gonzalez and Shotzi Blackheart. Out of those two, who can afford to take the pinfall? Shotzi Blackheart.
Shotzi. Because Raquel, I feel like we're going for a sort of Diesel thing with her.
That's exactly what I thought. They've got that very Shawn Michaels Diesel sort of vibe.
Yeah, in the of Garth probably hates Dakota Kai.
Garth has also gone for the same of us, so we all agree for that 6-woman tag. And watch, knowing us, oh well, no. We usually vote on the same, and then it's usually a really shit match like that that's the decider. But no, we've all gone for the same thing here.
I like the matches everyone cares about. I think we're going for different people.
So, talking about matches we actually care about, let's go for Tommaso Ciampa versus Karrion Kross. Singles match. I'm going to go first with this one, Chris, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
I imagine all three of us have got the same thing for this. I mean, Tommaso Ciampa is great, and I have no doubt this match is going to be great. I think they've done a fantastic job building Karrion Kross as this absolute beast. His entrance is fucking fantastic. Go and check that out if you haven't already. Kross's first takeover match, there's not a chance he's losing it. Plus, there are rumours flying about, and obviously Matt Riddle is the first, but there are the rumours that more NXT talent are heading up. I think Ciampa will be one of them. So I'm taking Kross here. Just before you say, Chris, sorry, Garth, unbelievably, you might think, has also gone for Karrion Kross.
I've also went for Kross. I'm loving Kross on NXT TV from the limited I've seen of him, which is essentially he showed his eyes on the Titantron last week, and this week he ran out and back body dropped someone, like backdrop driver, and like I have an absolute hard on for the backdrop driver because like Kross actually drops people on his head, and I love it. Yeah, I'm going with Kross. Well, he's the new hot heel. Like Triple H is obviously really, really hot on him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's NXT champion within the next year, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you.
He's amazing though, so like rightfully so.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Let's move on then. Let's move on to Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. Chris, who have you got and why do you have them?
I feel really weird about this match because the video packages have been great, but neither man has been on TV.
Okay.
It's super weird. Like, so like a few weeks ago, basically Priest cost Balor a match against Cameron Grimes. And quite frankly, if you want to humiliate someone, you have them lose to Cameron Grimes.
Oh, God. Just the most generic name.
I know, like, and I don't know if you've seen much of Trevor Lee before, but I love Trevor Lee. He's amazing. But there was once a point in, I'm lucky Garth's not here, otherwise he'd call me a mark, in PWG, where he was going up against Keith Lee, and he tried to get out of it by going, look, man, we're both Lees. We can work something. But yeah, so he lost to Cameron Grimes, and then Balor basically went on his backstage promos, which are always amazing, and he was like, you want to live forever, but you're not being very smart about it. You come to the king's altar, and you will bow down before I bury you. I don't know who to go for. I don't know how they're feeling about Priest right now. I'm going to go for Balor, just because I don't think we're going to have him lose until he gets that inevitable title shot.
Okay, I'm going to go for Damian Priest. I think he needs that big win. I think Balor is able to eat a loss.
Well, he did to Cameron Grimes.
Well, yeah, exactly, with interference. I think Balor is able to eat the pin here and still be over. I think they've done a good enough job of building him up. I believe Balor has already had a title shot on NXT TV. So I think they're going to cool off on that for a while. I think Priest, he's a new talent. He hasn't been given a lot of chances yet, and I can't see, of everyone on the NXT roster, I can't see why Damian Priest would be put in this match to lose.
I literally think it's just because if we have Balor, why wouldn't we have him on a takeover? But also, we have nowhere else to put Balor right now.
Well, in that case, Chris, and I don't want to be a dick about Damian Priest, you put him in a match against someone who's going to put on an amazing match with Finn Balor. I don't think Damian Priest is that person. No,
but like in terms of, in WWE terms, they don't give a fuck about a good match. They give a fuck about, does this person look strong? And in WWE terms, being someone who's like 6'7" in a match makes Balor look strong. So
okay,
well, I can see actually in storyline because we were teasing Priest for Balor Club. Balor beats Priest and then goes, if you want to live forever, join Balor Club. Boom. There's a Fale figure in Balor Club.
It would certainly be interesting, and that would certainly lead to a potential pay-per-view match where Balor actually goes for the championship, on a big stage.
Or even the tag belt, something a little different in the tag division, because quite frankly, Breeze Angle is the number one contender. Fuck your tag division.
Well, you say that. It's not like their tag division isn't strong. It's absolutely loaded.
Yeah, and then we were building up something really strong and flush it down the toilet.
Well, there is that. Right, let's move to the match for the NXT North American Championship with the champion Keith Lee taking on Johnny Gargano. Garth thinks that Gargano is going to take it. Chris, who have you gone for and why?
Well, it's weird. Within storyline, there's how sometimes there's indications within storyline. Here, there's no indication of who might win. They've been doing these weird at home with the Garganos, at home with the Lees segments, and Keith Lee is just the low key most charismatic man in the world. I think we'd be stupid to take that championship off of him. And also, I'm sick of seeing Gargano championships or in championship pictures. At this point, I want Gargano to fuck off. So I want Lee to win, so I'm going to predict Lee to win.
It's a shame, isn't it, that the man who was literally Mr. NXT, we've now got to the point now where we are so sick of him because his storyline has become that convoluted. And we spoke about this last week on the podcast, Chris, just how it's impossible to invest in Gargano at the moment because you don't know what he's going to do one week to the next.
They seem to be set on him being heel, and if that's the case, I'm completely fine with it. Because that's my problem with Gargano hasn't been, I'm bored with him. It's decide on something.
Commit, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not just some people just naturally can drift between heel and face and have it be that. Kevin Owens, just in WWE, the natural example of someone who can drift between babyface and heel depending on situation. Because his motivation remains the same. I want to make the best life for my family and for me. Whereas with Gargano, it seems to change week to week. 1 week, I want to be best friends with Ciampa. The next week, I want to fuck Ciampa. It's weird. I don't like Gargano storylines since the Cole feud ended, to be honest. And honestly, the only reason I'm happy with him being heel is because it means the Johnny Gargano finish might stop being the Johnny Gargano finish, and I hate that.
Yeah, it is a very stereotypical finish now.
Yeah,
I've gone for Lee for the exact same reason. I do think at the moment that they are very high on Johnny Gargano, but
what I mean, not high on Johnny Gargano. In the past 2-3 years, when was the last time we weren't high on Johnny Gargano down in NXT?
No, I mean the NXT uppers are high on Johnny Gargano. So, they want to see him with a championship. However, if you take the championship off Keith Lee, the only reason you're taking the championship off Keith Lee is to put him in that main event picture. Because he is someone, you're looking at Adam Cole and there is only, there's literally, maybe 3 people in NXT who are as charismatic as Adam Cole, and one of those is Keith Lee. So
the other one, Challenger. Oh, that's not a good segue because we prefer to go. Fuck. Sorry, continue.
I don't think they'll take the championship off Keith Lee here yet. I want them to commit to a Gargano storyline. I don't think they will. I'm going Keith Lee. I'm relatively set on that. Relatively. So let's go into the Women's Championship triple threat then, between Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, and Io Shirai. Just before you go, Chris, because I will let you go first, Garth has gone for Io Shirai.
I didn't read his predictions and I thought it was going to be so different. I also went for Shirai. I think Shirai is going to pin Ripley because I think Flair was a quick burst for ratings that hasn't worked. Now that hasn't worked, they're going to just take her off of NXT.
I agree with you 100% on the fact that Charlotte is dropping the title. However, I think it will be completely the other way around.
I think Ripley's going to have, I should explain, I think Ripley's going to have an arc throughout the rest of the year where she reclaims the title and then goes on the dominant run. Because they're going to do sort of like the Okada thing where like, oh, she was the inexperienced 23-year-old, God, she's the same age as me. And then have her chase the championship, lose a couple of times to EU, but have it be so close that when she wins it the third time, everyone's going to be so happy. And then like Rhea's going to win that championship in front of a crowd that's hot for it.
My only issue with that is that there is a rumour that one of the other main roster call-ups
for fuck's sake,
is Io Shirai.
So essentially, I could be punished for not giving a fuck about WWE news.
Potentially. I mean, it's not widespread news. It's more rumoured. Let's put it this way: it's more rumoured than the Ciampa one. It's
essentially people going, oh, they probably don't want her to run back to Stardom. Because to be honest, they probably don't want her to run back to Stardom.
So we both agreed that Charlotte's dropping it. Charlotte, with the NXT Championship, has done nothing because she's still appearing on Raw and SmackDown, so absolutely nothing to it.
The one good thing that I've seen is a couple of weeks ago on NXT, it was Charlotte had a mystery opponent, and it was Chelsea Green, and you know Chelsea Green with Robert Stone.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Stone, the whole way down the ramp, was like, I put this together. The biggest wrestler in the world, and I put this together. It's literally like you'll know this if you remotely ever worked with in music, which you have because you're in a band. Managers are the worst kind of people.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But always like, well, this is what I've done. This is what I've done, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck, mate. I asked you, what do you want for the bar?
Yeah, I think Ripley's going to pinch her eye. I think with the division that NXT women have got, which is just an absolutely stacked division still, I think you've got enough women in there to hold the division without needing Charlotte there. You're right, Charlotte's bought nothing, and in the current climate, it hasn't bumped the ratings at all. Just look at the women in the 6-women tag. I mean, you've got Tegan Nox, Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, all who could legitimately go for that championship now.
Like it hasn't shifted the rate. Like NXT AEW ratings were closer this week, but I think that's down to AEW losing viewers more than NXT earning them.
Yeah, I think NXT have plateaued slightly.
Yeah, which we're not. It's still good. It's still good ratings. It's just they don't have Chris Jericho.
That is true. Main event of the evening then. The last chance backlot brawl for the NXT Championship. It's been made a backlot brawl this week, with the stipulation that if the Velveteen Dream loses, he can no longer challenge for the NXT Championship while Cole is still champion. And obviously it's Cole, the champion, versus the Velveteen Dream. Now, it might surprise you, Chris, that the Velveteen Dream Mark himself, Garth Jackson, has gone for the Velveteen Dream.
Who voted against the Velveteen Dream in the predictions?
So, are you going to join him in the Velveteen Smarkdom?
I am unsure. Because, for one, I think Adam Cole should lose the belt in front of the crowd. But also, I think with Adam Cole, he's so much of a heel that people love him. He's one of those type. He's a Kevin Owens type. So, he's not going to be booed if he loses the championship, so what's the point? I think it might be time for a change. He's the longest running NXT champion and has essentially faced 4 people for that belt. So, I don't know. I'm going to go with Dream just as a Hail Mary because I want to start winning these predictions.
Okay, so, my thinking...
Always dangerous.
Fuck. I was going to say the person to take the belt off Cole is Keith Lee, but of course Keith Lee's still the United States champion according to my predictions. Bollocks. I think with it being made a backlot brawl, and with it being made effectively a no DQ match, you're going to have the Undisputed Era make an appearance.
You are. By the way, have you seen Kyle O'Reilly's beard? I
haven't.
It's more scraggly than my beard.
Oh, fuck, I don't know. Oh, do I go Adam Cole just to be different?
But also, has room for bollocks, which is like Velveteen Dream's favourite thing, as in like gimmicks, not actual bollocks. We of course don't know the Dream's sexuality.
The thing that annoys me about the Dream is we've been robbed here of an actual Velveteen Dream entrance.
Well, I'm sure he'll still make one.
He better do. That's the only reason I'm tuning in. Oh, so you've
To be
gone...
fair, they're also like completely against the gimmick. They're not in any house. They're in a parking lot.
See, I was set on Adam Cole. And then when you mentioned that if Adam Cole drops the title in front of a crowd, you run the risk of it being a bad reaction. You've made a fucking good point there, you dick.
I'm sorry, that's not why you've kept me on this podcast for, 2 years now?
Do you know what? Me and you differ enough. And so do me and Garth. We differ enough, so I am going to go Dream. I wasn't going to. I'd literally, as we set out, I had every faith I was going to go with Cole, and now I just don't fucking know. So, bastard. Yeah, I'm going Dream. I'm going Dream.
So does that mean the only difference we have is a women's match?
No, we've also gone different Priest and Balor.
Okay. Oh, for fuck's sake. So do you mean I now need to care about Priest and Balor?
You do need to care about Priest and Balor, and especially if that's the kickoff match.
I might, to be honest. Am I staying up with this one? I don't have a network. I could pirate it. I don't know.
I'm not staying up for this live because obviously I work on a Monday, and with them changing it to fucking Sunday, I can't watch it. So I'll have to watch it on the Monday night.
It's been on Sundays for like 2 of the last 3 takeovers, and I miss it being on a Saturday.
I miss it being on a Saturday. That's why I loved AEW Double or Nothing being on a Saturday, because it was just easy to watch, and I had a lion. It was amazing.
It was amazing. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that just about cuts it. So what we'll do is I'll just quickly run through the predictions and then I'll sign off the podcast. So we've all gone for Team Candice LeRae. We've all gone for Killer Cross. I've gone for Damian Priest, and Chris and Garth have gone for Finn Balor. Me and Chris have gone for Keith Lee to retain his his North American title against Gargano. Garth's gone for Gargano. I have gone for Rhea Ripley to win the women's championship. Both Garth and Chris have gone for Io Shirai, and then all 3 of us have gone for the Velveteen Dream to dethrone Adam Cole. Who will win? You will have to find out on next week's Weekend Wrestling, where we will have a review of NXT TakeOver in your house. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Google, whether that's iTunes, whether that's Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, Google Podcast. We are absolutely everywhere. You can also check us out on the website www.podmania.co.uk, where you can also check out our features, match reviews, match ratings, and all our archived podcasts. You can find the podcast on Twitter at @PodMania, and on Facebook, join the Facebook group PodMania Podcasts. The YouTube channel at @RealPodMania, or YouTube/Real Podmania. Garth is found at Garthamania on Twitter. Myself, I'm found at Real Rob Gooding. Chris, where can they find you?
At Garthamania.
just have people shouting you out on Garth's Twitter.
Yeah, it's like, why the fuck did you insult? Who did I insult on this pod? I normally insult someone.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I do just want to sign off with the following words. We do not understand, but we will stand with you. Black lives do matter. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.
You've been listening to the PodMania Pro Wrestling Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at PodMania, Facebook at PodMania Podcasts, and YouTube and Instagram at Real PodMania. And check out the website, podmania.co.uk. Until next time, wrestling fans.